Sacred Tests, Broken Theories, and Disability, Legacy Mindsets of the 1920s. By John Smyth. Created as an assignment for Mrs. Thompson's English 11 class. March 5, 2014. What if there was no IQ test? What if an IQ test means nothing? What if the SAT test means nothing about life success? Our mindset about intelligence was formed in the 1920s. And we still live there. Here's how. Inventor versus mass marketer. Inventor. Alfred Binet developed the Binet-Simon intelligence test to find students who needed help at any time. He strongly cautioned against using the test to classify learners and ability. He held firmly that intelligence is influenced by a number of factors, changes over time, and can possibly only be compared among children with similar backgrounds. Mass marketer. Henry Herbert Goddard was a botany teacher with a genetic approach to life based on Gregor Mendel's work. He translated Binet's test, wrote books to make himself the expert, created his own language, made lots of money, and caused much suffering. His lobbying organization was the American Psychological Association. It grew with him and also ignored Binet's ethics. Goddard brilliantly invented new intelligence classifications that are now part of our language. His books and marketing made him the expert. Classifications included normal, within range as measured, moron, between age 7 and normal, idiot, between 3 and 7 years of age, and imbecile, up to 3 years of age. Classification of a person's mental age was based on the tester's measurement or inability to measure. The same classifications are used today, but people are called special. In his 1920 book, Feeble-Mindedness, Its Causes and Consequences, Goddard wrote, "It is undeniable that the imbecile and the moron are more attentive to us, to our gestures, and above all to our words than the idiot is, and this is easily explained. They understand our words, while the idiot does not. The principal indication, wholly external, of this difference in the power of attention is that the imbecile is capable of assuming the attitude of a well-behaved pupil. Language forms attitudes. Notice how Goddard separates them from us, the smart readers. Psychologists still do this. Tests still do this." In the 1920s, the feeble-minded came to be considered a threat to society and its gene pool. Goddard, and most in the APA, believed in eugenics, or selective breeding. Of late, we have recognized a higher type of defective, the moron, and have discovered that he is a burden. That he is responsible to a large degree for many if not all of our social problems. H. Goddard. Making himself the expert with his books, the mass marketer Goddard became famous and wealthy. Today, schools are named for this man and books praise him. The term feeble-minded was used broadly to include the undesirables such as those with epilepsy, sexual perversions and immorality, alcoholics, criminals and degenerate immigrants. This famous diagram was used to illustrate Goddard's popular book, The Kellecock Family, a study in the heredity of feeble-mindedness. According to the book, the seed of a barmaid produced bad offspring, and the seed of a proper Quakeress produced upstanding citizens. The solution: class war on the less fortunate, less stable. Much of society embraced this robber baron approach. In summary, brilliant mass marketing with books, free tests, and false signs convinced the 1920s American society to classify and be afraid of others with facts many people still believe. Purported facts included: intelligence can be permanently measured with a Binet-Simon test, now a Binet-Stanford test. False. Intelligence is grounded in genetics. Partly true. All social problems come from a bad gene pool. False. Bad scores mean bad genes, even if the test taker can't speak English. False. Persons scoring poorly should be classified, separated, sterilized, and institutionalized. They did this. And these feeble-minded should perhaps be considered unworthy of life. False, but still discussed. Goddard's methods were questionable. He and the APA often ignored results that did not fit their theories. Still, Goddard sold his services to government to severely restrict immigration. He personally taught customs officers to judge people by their appearances. Under his guidance, the U.S. Public Health Service found that 79% of Italians, 80% of Hungarians, 83% of Jews, and 87% of Russians were feeble-minded. Immigrants were feared. Society was more divided. Many who did not fit APA standards for genetic wellness suffered. Women who sought college education were considered degenerates and possibly permanently disabled. College-motivated degenerate women were labeled as feeble-minded with the promiscuous. Experience was that educated women married later, if at all, so their seed was not as good, because they were older child-bearers, which led to more old maids in society. The true tragedy was that the children of old seeds were becoming a menace to society. In Buck v. Bell, 1927, the U.S. Supreme Court adopted Goddard's language and authorized involuntary sterilization. However, the facts of the case were doctored. States began aggressive gene pool cleansing sterilization campaigns. Institutions became overcrowded hellholes of suffering. A person judged by a psychologist as feeble-minded or degenerate came under a new set of rules imposed by state authorities. Privacy was not important. Lobotomies and experimentation would occur. The excesses of the 1920s for the feeble-minded or disabled would lead to worse practices in the 1930s. This boy, John Daggy, went into an institution with his sister. She was lobotomized and later died. He was eventually released and lived a successful life in Minnesota. Today, after so many groups were considered disabled, we still don't question the legitimacy of such labeling. But in Germany it was worse. APA member publications favored sterilization and questioned the value of lives worth living. This fit the Nazi mold. APA members freely supplied Hitler with publications and their well-developed American thinking on this matter. Hitler republished Goddard's Kalkak book. German fears to protect the gene pool grew. In the 1920s, Americans had sacrificed all moral standing to argue against Hitler's extermination machine. Over 100,000 disabled perished in German gas chambers before starvation, and injection was used to kill more than double that number. Sterilization was used on Jews before Holocaust gas chambers. Germany's population, like their American brothers and sisters, did nothing to protect the innocent. Experts now admit that intelligence is not permanent. The test only provides information about certain cognitive skills at a given point in time. Any genetics involved is modified by experience, test-taking skills, stress, and other factors. What is the harm of intelligence tests? 1. They can be inaccurate, misleading, and harmful to self-esteem. 2. They do not measure capacity or potential nor honor work, opportunity, drive, and other critical intangibles to success. And 3. They can divide us by focusing each person on himself or herself as individual rather than teamwork, collaboration, and community. Maybe there is a place we can be where there is no disability. Stories are analogized to other cultures lost as they were conquered and absorbed. Can we absorb quiet autism's gifts by solving the quite baffling medical issues? What if everyone labeled disabled were assumed fully competent? What if disability is really difference, and the different bring insights and gifts from another cultural and skills perspective to share? What if testers and aides presumed themselves incompetent when they can't communicate across the barrier? With abundant technology, what will it take to assume intelligence issues, leave the 1920s behind, and be present to the competence before us? The test is still sacred in our lives and schools. The theory for it is completely broken. Its only relationship to success might be the privileged start that it sometimes gives. The 1920s prove that how we think about ourselves and each other matters. What we buy from propaganda can have consequences in reality for 100 years. Teens will always think better than smart persons with egos. How do we leave the 1920s behind and become present to our time? Thank you.